Hello my fellow MCs, Primo here. Cold Dragon Young is fast approaching and the anticipation is an all-time high. With him being the first true imaginary DPS unit to be released, many players will be looking to capitalize on his skill set and obtain a major upgrade to their account. Today, we are doing a deep dive into his overall kit, best Lightcones, traces, relics, and recommended team comps. So let's sit back, grind some Stellar Jades, and let's talk about it.
Heng, maybe now's a good time to show off your secret strength?
Heng IL's kit is centralized on his enhanced basic attack that can be upgraded through the use of his skill up to 3 times. His non-enhanced basic attack hits a single enemy 2 times and deals imaginary damage. His skill can seem daunting with how long the description is, but I'll try and lay it out in layman's terms. Each of his 3 enhanced basic attacks does varying amounts of damage, with his first level being the lowest and his third being the highest. His first level Transcendence is a 3-hit attack that deals imaginary damage to a single target. His second level Divine Spear is a 5-hit attack that deals high amounts of imaginary damage to a single target and a lower percentage of damage to the adjacent enemies from the 4th hit onward. His final enhanced basic attack, Fulgurant Leap, works the same way as Divine Spear, but it is a 7-hit attack with much higher damage scaling. The amount of skill points needed to upgrade to Transcendence, Divine Spear, and Fulgurant Leap are 1 to 3 respectively. Users will have to be aware of this when creating a team composition for him that is overall skill point positive. Another aspect of his skill is the stacks of crit damage named Dominating Roar that you can gain by attacking with his enhanced basic attacks, Divine Spear, and Fulgurant Leap. Stacking up to 4 times, you can gain 1 stack of Dominating Roar for every hit starting from the 4th one and after. For reference, if Heng attacks with Divine Spear, he will get 2 stacks of crit damage, while if he were to use Fulgurant Leap, he will obtain the maximum 4 stacks. Heng IL's ultimate is pretty standard in terms of damage output, unleashing a 3-hit attack that deals a huge amount of imaginary damage to the targeted enemy as well as the adjacent opponents. What makes it special is his personal skill point regeneration, called Squama Sacrosanta, or SS for short. Essentially, these act as makeshift skill points that only Heng IL can use in place of the party's skill points. A maximum of 3 can be held at any time, and when Heng uses his ultimate, he will gain 2 SS. This helps mitigate the skill point negativity for Heng IL and will free up skill points for other party members to use when necessary. His talent is a stackable damage percent increase based on the number of hits unleashed on an enemy. Getting 1 stack of Righteous Heart for every hit, you can get a maximum of 6 stacks, and these will last till the end of Heng IL's turn. Heng IL's technique allows him to attack any enemy he touches from long distances by moving rapidly and blocking all incoming attacks. After attacking the targeted opponent, he will deal imaginary damage, but more importantly, he will gain 1 stack of Squama Sacrosanta.
Heng, maybe now's a good time to show off your secret strength?
Heng IL's best in slot will be his own, Brighter Than the Sun, that gives him a crit rate increase as well as a stackable attack percent and ERR increase. To gain the stacks for the attack percent and ERR, you will have to utilize his basic attack, either enhanced or non-enhanced, to gain 1 stack for 2 turns. The total number of stacks this weapon can have at one time is 2. Another 5-star option that Heng IL can utilize is the Unreachable Side, while some 4-star and F2P options I would recommend are On the Fall of the Aeon, Under the Blue Sky, The Moles Welcome You, and A Secret Vow. The Unreachable Side is Blade's signature Lightcone that increases the user's crit rate and max HP. The only fallback for this Lightcone is the damage percent increase, which requires the holder to be attacked or consume their own HP, which can't be guaranteed unlike Blade. Still, it's a very nice stat stick for crit rate and max HP, but I believe you can find better value with some of the other Lightcone recommendations and just leave this one for Blade. My personal recommendation for Heng IL that gives the most value is On the Fall of the Aeon, a 5-star F2P option that can be obtained from Herta's shop. This Lightcone gives a stackable attack percent boost up to 4 times when the wearer attacks. On top of that, if the holder applies a weakness break on the enemy, you can obtain a damage percent increase for 2 turns. The passive is a little situational with the weakness break requirement, but with Heng IL more than likely being the main DPS on your team, he will be the one applying a majority of the weakness breaks. Another reason why I would recommend this Lightcone is because it can be easily superimposed with the superimposers in Herta's shop, giving you the potential to have an S5 5-star Lightcone for your imaginary husbando. Some under-the-radar options like Under the Blue Sky, The Moles Welcome You, and A Secret Vow can all be very nice options for Heng IL. All 3 are gacha Lightcones, so they can only be obtained through warping, but if you have these on your account, they are definitely usable. The Moles Welcome You gives the holder a stackable attack percent increase up to 3 times that can be triggered when the holder attacks using their basic attack, skill, or ultimate. Under the Blue Sky gives the holder a non-stackable attack percent increase as well as a crit rate increase when defeating an enemy. The crit rate increase will last for 3 turns. Many are familiar with the Secret Vow and how good it can be with its initial damage percent increase that can be doubled if the enemy's HP is the same or higher when the holder unleashes an attack. Overall, Heng IL has a greater assortment of usable Lightcones than say Blade, as he is an attack scaling character, giving many players multiple options from all varieties.
Heng, maybe Maybe now's a good time to show off your secret strength?
Dan Heng IL's trace priority should be as follows. Basic attack would be first, skill would be second, talent would be third, and his ultimate would be last. His basic attack is central to his damage output and is the main way he attacks enemies, thus making this a major priority for upgrading. His skill is my second recommendation for trace priority, as this will help directly increase his overall damage through the scalable crit damage percent. His talent is third because similar to his skill, this will give him a direct damage upgrade through the scalable damage percent increase. His ultimate ends up being last for priority, as this will only upgrade his ultimate damage output, while his skill and talent help upgrade all phases of his damage, whether it's his basic attack or ultimate. But to be completely honest, I see all four traces as vital for his damage output and overall utility, so I would recommend leveling up all of them as high as possible. Usually there's at least one trace that doesn't need to have anything invested into it, but when analyzing his kit, all of them are very useful for Dan Heng IL. Some bonus traces I wanted to point out that should be immediately upgraded as soon as possible are his Ascension 2 and Ascension 6 traces, Starveil and Jolt Anew. The Starveil trace allows Dan Heng IL to regenerate 15 energy at the start of the battle, giving him the ability to get his ultimate up faster and gain those stacks of Squama Sacrosanta. The Jolt Anew trace gives him a 12% crit rate increase when dealing damage to enemies with an imaginary weakness, which is absolutely insane value. And for reference, many of his upgradable bonus traces have a focus on increasing his crit rate and imaginary damage, making him the quintessential DPS.
Dan Heng, maybe now's a good time to show off your secret strength?
Now, many people are going to recommend the 4-piece Wastelander of Banditry Desert set, which is totally understandable as it gives you a 10% imaginary damage bonus, as well as crit rate and crit damage increases of 10 and 20% respectively. The only issue with this is that Dan Heng IL can't consistently guarantee the 4-piece set bonus, since your enemy has to have a debuff to get the crit rate increase, and the enemy has to be imprisoned to gain the 20% crit damage boost. This set was tailor-made for Welt, who can apply debuffs with his skill and can imprison enemies with his ultimate without having to weakness break them, thus triggering the 4-piece set bonus much easier. Now, you can formulate a team to work around this set, and I would recommend this if you are running Dan Heng IL with Welt or a mono imaginary team with Silverwolf, as you can more consistently trigger weakness breaks on enemies while Silverwolf provides all the debuffs. But other than those two instances, I would say your best bet is to go for the 2-piece Imaginary and 2-piece Musketeer for more consistent damage. You can also go 4-piece Musketeer if you don't have any Imaginary relics to put on him, as the 4-piece set bonus works great with this kit. I'll throw this out there as a potential third set you can use just based on how universal it is, and that is the Longevous Disciple. The 2-piece set bonus won't do much for him, as it will just increase his max HP by 12%, but you can get a nice 16% crit rate increase with the 4-piece set bonus. For planar ornaments, his best in slot set would be the Repellent Arena, as long as you're able to reach that 70% crit rate requirement. In turn, this will give Dan Heng IL a basic attack and skill damage increase of 20%. Some other sets I would recommend for him are the Salsodo set if you can't reach the 70% crit rate requirement, or the Space Sealing Station. The Salsodo set will give him a 15% damage increase to his ultimate, while the Space Sealing Station can give him a 24% attack increase if his speed is at or over 120. Now, for stats to focus on, I would say you want to be prioritizing a crit damage body piece and speed boots. Since you are getting quite a bit of crit rate from Dan Heng IL's bonus traces, it's safe to assume you can reach at least 50 to 70% crit rate with some decent substat rolls. Speed boots in general is a good option, as it'll help you get more attacks in for a single turn to help potentially zero cycle enemy waves and Memory of Chaos. Now, there is an argument to be made that you won't have enough skill points available to be able to efficiently use Dan Heng IL's enhanced basic attacks if you are running speed boots. My counter to that is that even if he's only able to get a level 2 enhanced basic attack off, that is still better than no attack at all if you were running an attack percent boot. For optimal substats, we are looking at your generic DPS stats in attack percent, speed, crit rate, and crit damage. For the planar ornaments, it is best to go with the imaginary damage sphere and an attack percent rope. I've also heard some people mention using an ERR rope to be able to get his ultimate up faster and thus create more Squama Sacrosanta, which is definitely a fine option to go with if you need the skill points for other members of your team.
Dan Heng, maybe now's a good time to show off your secret strength?
As we mentioned earlier in the kit overview section, Dan Heng IL is very skill point negative and thus needs other team members who can balance him out. If you were looking at a traditional hypercarry team composition, my personal recommendation would be Locha, Ting Yun, Flex, and Dan Heng IL. Locha works as a passive healer who can use his basic attacks to be skill point positive without having to actively heal Dan Heng IL. Ting Yun can use her skill once every 4 turns to be able to enhance Dan Heng IL's attack stat while using her basic attacks for the duration of her skill uptime. The flex spot can be a number of different options, with some of my favorites being Asta, Pila, Welt, and Silverwolf. Asta can run as an attack buffer and speed enhancer, which can lead you to consider using attack percent boots over speed. Pila with an ERR rope and the light cone before the tutorial mission starts can act as a skill point battery and defense shredder, all things that are very useful in a Dan Heng IL team composition. As I mentioned in my last point, Welt can single-handedly achieve the 4-piece set bonus for the Wastelander set. This in turn can help enhance Dan Heng IL's damage output by allowing him to efficiently run the 4-piece set himself instead of the recommended 2-piece Wastelander, 2-piece Musketeer. Silverwolf is one of the top supports in the game, and for good reason. She can be a debuffer, implement weaknesses on enemies, and has decent damage output herself. Any of the units mentioned would work great in the flex spot for this specific team, setting up Dan Heng IL for some amazing damage output. Another team comp style I wanted to focus on is a mono imaginary team. There are 2 variations you can run, and that is one containing Luocha, Welt, Yukong, and Dan Heng IL, and one containing Luocha, Welt, or Yukong, Silverwolf, and Dan Heng IL. Now the latter team comp isn't a true imaginary team, however I will admit this one works better than the former due to how skill point efficient it is. Both Welt and Yukong want to utilize their skill, Welt for his debuffing and damage output, while Yukong wants to buff her teammates. Another thing I wanted to point out about the Silverwolf imaginary team is that it can be used on any enemy in the game even if they don't have an initial weakness to imaginary. Because of Silverwolf, she has a 75% chance to apply the imaginary element as a weakness to any enemy through the use of her skill. Now this isn't to say that the first imaginary team doesn't work. It's a usable team that can clear most content in the game, but for the best experience and synergy, I would highly recommend the Silverwolf mono imaginary team. An F2P team comp for Dan Heng IL can consist of Fire MC, Natasha, and Asta. It's a standard built team that has a good balance between survivability and damage output. We have already talked about Asta and her capabilities with Dan Heng IL, and Fire MC is your typical preservation unit. Where I can see this team taking a unique turn is in how Natasha is built. Her kit is centralized around her ultimate healing, and as such, she utilizes her basic attacks quite a bit. Because she can help regenerate skill points for Dan Heng IL, why not make her the ultimate battery? Running her with Quid Pro Quo can help with the energy regeneration for the team, and utilizing a relic set like 4-piece Eagle of the Twilight line can help advance forward her actions by 25% so she can get off more basic attacks. It could definitely give Dan Heng IL a bona fide skill point battery as well as a decent healer for the team overall. Now just a quick disclaimer on why I didn't recommend Bronya on any of my team compositions. Yes, she is an amazing support, and in terms of kit value, she works great with Dan Heng IL. The thing that holds me back from using her is the fact that she is also extremely skill point negative. Because she needs to use her skill every turn to get the most out of her kit, this takes away skill points from Dan Heng IL's enhanced basic attacks and overall damage. Now maybe I'm not considering something when it comes to the synergy between Bronya and Dan Heng IL, so let me know in the comments below if that's the case. But I had to address this and give my thoughts, especially since I omitted her from any of my recommended team compositions.
Dan Heng, maybe now's a good time to show off your secret strength?
And with that, this will end our pre-release guide and build video on Dan Heng IL. If you like the content, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how excited you are for Dan Heng IL. I know for myself, I'm excited but a little nervous knowing that I'm on a 50-50 and I don't have enough wishes to guarantee him. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.